So, gimmicks in business and gimmicky business. This is an interesting thought that I had, or more of an observation. I've noticed that most of the people who tend to succeed in business tend to succeed because they figured out some aspect of business, but they fail to capture the whole picture. So, and the whole picture, I mean, I think the 80-20 of business is really just get the most motivated, competent people in the world to solve problems. Like, give them productive stuff to do. Give motivated, competent people stuff to do. This is really Ford's major insight. But, and I mean, then Ford ultimately, this is kind of where I think that Elon Musk, I'll just talk about this briefly because this is interesting. So, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are notorious for overworking their employees and not paying them that much more than like market. And I think that what's going to happen is that they're going to go through all the people that could have worked for them. Like, I mean, big ego and everything, Devin. I am the kind of person that you would want to have working at these major innovative companies because I'm the sort of person who, wherever you put me, I just do insanely innovative work. My brother is the same, but all these companies have failed to hire and keep us because they're not trying to. They have this idea that there's always another person who will be able to do this for this salary. So it doesn't actually matter. We can just afford to burn through people. Like, that's what Jeff Bezos is doing. That's what Elon Musk is doing. They're just burning through people. But you can't really do that. And this is one of Ford's observations that he actually kind of failed to keep up with in later life. I mean, I feel like Ford, I have to look more into Ford, but like his relationship with his son Edsel was very strange because he basically just forgot everything intelligent that he'd learned his entire life and just started dogmatically insisting that his son Edsel do the same quote, do the same thing I did with cars with airplanes. Just so many reasons why that's wrong because Edsel was actually trying to create a luxury car. So Edsel was basically operating on the same principles that Ford used to build his entire company, which is the principle that you just continuous improvement. I mean, you already have this thing, so you're like, why weren't people buying more Fords? I mean, Ford's whole thing was get everyone to buy a Ford. Basically, everyone had a Ford at that point. Why aren't people buying more Fords? Well, because they don't perceive them as luxury vehicles. So, in some sense, it's kind of funny because Toyota ends up doing the exact same thing that Edsel was trying to do with Ford, like 30, 40 years later, and then making tons of money doing it. All the while, Ford was trying to force his son to do some impossible task with airplanes because of just insanity. I don't really understand it. But basically, yeah, I mean, it's same with military conquest as well. I mean, there's really just a limited number of highly motivated, competent people in the world. And if you can just find them and give them productive stuff to do, more so than they could find on their own, you will just take over the world. Like, that's really all you have to do. But people try to develop business gimmicks because in order to do that, you have to solve a real problem. Ford solved the problem of transportation. Before Ford, people spent the majority of their time taking care of animals that would be used for transportation. But after Ford, people were like, okay, wait, we're not going. Ford just removed so I think it was like 75% of people's labor. I'm not even joking. Before the automobile went towards like taking care of horses. Like 75% of their productive labor was just taking care of horses for transportation and then transporting stuff. Ford is able to bring that way down to like 5% with just paying for gas. So Ford basically, like, he just notices this mathematical issue. And then Ford's biggest thing is he talks about human waste. So I'll just talk a little bit about my company because this is where this comes in. The purpose of my company is primarily to save myself because I've just realized that, like, I have to save myself before I can save others. Like St. Francis of Assisi, save yourself and thousands around you'll be saved. This is kind of what I was messing up when I was doing health coaching. So I was like, I'm going to save everyone, and that's going to be how I like provide for myself. And it's backwards. So I just now like I will be in perfect health, and then I will help other people by providing them with things they're already buying in a better manner. I mean, people are already spending all this energy on transportation. Ford comes in, he's like, okay, let's remove that. Like, let's remove most of this wasted energy and give you a more effective way. So people are already buying lots of supplements. I provide them with a better supplement. solve the problem. Um, and so one of the things, this is what this actually is perfect segue into business gimmicks. So I realized that I can. It's speed. Speed is really like not methamphetamine, but like speed is in like being snappy is how most people stay ahead in business. So most people simply try to identify an opportunity and then they kind of like sit on it. They're like, oh, I figured out how to sell pencils in Nova Scotia, and now I'm the pencil guy in Nova Scotia. Oh my God, Walmart came in and stole my business. It's like, okay, dude, you figured out how to sell pencils in Nova Scotia. Like, there wasn't anything else you could do after that with the profits from that. That was it. That was all you could do. Like, you just at the end of the day, after you've sold your pencils in Nova Scotia, there was no more improvements to be made. All the money was spent. Okay, well, Walmart should clear you out then. So basically, what did the pencil guy do wrong? He didn't do something else. Well, why doesn't everyone do that? Well, because you need speed. You need to have snappiness. You need to, like, once you have the one idea working, you don't just sit there. You then develop another idea. But this is what most people don't do. And this is why they go out of business. Like, oh, business is so competitive. Business isn't that competitive when you understand that business is continuous growth. It's not. I mean, it's just continuous growth. Because if it's not continuous growth, then there's no bigger future pie for everyone to buy into. And if you can't buy into a bigger future pie, well, then now you've got an insurrection on your hands. You've got rebellion. You've got. Because if I don't, I mean, just fundamentally, like, if I don't see the company I'm working for as a way to get more money than if I wasn't working for this company, I'm just not going to work for the company anymore. And if I'm working for the company making the money, then I know how to make money, so therefore I could just go make money elsewhere. You see how that goes? I mean, in order to have people work together, you need belief in a better future. For lack of a vision, the people perish. If there isn't a vision of a greater future, what are they going to work together for? And if they're not working together, then a house divided against itself cannot stand. So that's like one of the fundamental issues with. I'm drinking green tea to get off of Adderall because I don't really like the way Adderall makes my brain all linear. I've realized my superpower, now that I'm not suffering from brain autoimmunity all the time, my brain actually works. I've realized my superpower is the ability to have 5 million thoughts at once. So but I put myself in a situation with a lot of effort where I can have this uncontrolled creativity and it doesn't destroy me because I don't know. I mean, it's a nonstop flow of creativity, but it's nice though because it's like off of that. It's just I just look at the camera and it's like a billion possibilities are just floating in front of me, and also nothing. It's a billion possibilities and nothing. And that's when I was looking at the camera at the beginning of the last video. I was like, oh, I'm gonna make this. What if I make a video on? And I'm just staring at it. I'm staring at it, and I start speaking, and then the possibilities explode. But oh yeah. So the guy who's the Nova Scotian pencil salesman. So the Nova Scotian pencil salesman he thinks that he's done this great thing. But it's like, really, he should have started selling notebooks, and then he should have like opened up a school or something. Like, you gotta like, there's the next step. So Mr. Beast, here we go. So Mr. Beast, I don't want to shit on Mr. Beast. He's much more successful than me at the moment. But I'm just looking at, like, he was saying, he's like, I'm going to be the first person to get to like 5 billion subscribers. And it's like, maybe he is, but there's a certain point at which he's maxed out his business model because there's only so many people on Earth. I mean, I won't say he's gimmicky because I just don't want to like crap. I'll find what's a gimmicky business that I can dissect. That's just truly very gimmicky. They don't last long. That's kind of how. Oh, like Chirp Wheel. Let's just say Chirp Wheel. Oh, it's this wheel, and they have the back ads and stuff, and you buy the Chirp Wheel, and it's like, okay, well, once you have one Chirp Wheel, like, do you need more Chirp Wheels? Repeat sales. How's the repeat sales going to work? How do you make everyone in the world into a repeat customer? That's really the problem, is how do you make everyone in the world into a repeat customer? And I think that gimmicky businesses. No, I really wanted to do a better job of dissecting a business than that. Gimmicky. Why am I drawing a blank here? Give me a second. Gimmicky business models that I can dissect. I'll just think about health coaching. I'll just think about business models I'm not doing. So when I say gimmick, I mean like there's some sort of lack of maximum efficiency. Like a loss leader is gimmicky because you figured out. I guess a gimmick is sort of like a lapse of human attention. Like you're kind of like operating within a lapse of human attention without taking it to its ultimate conclusion. Like, I guess like a gimmicky business on Ford's part would have been if he'd been like, I'll be a transportation consultant or something. That would have been very gimmicky. And then he basically, I don't know. I mean, Ford really just nailed it with like the car. Um Oh, here's a gimmicky business. I don't know if this exists. It's kind of hard to name gimmicky businesses unless you're like looking for them. Like most businesses that I don't ever think about are gimmicky. This is kind of the problem. So like I'll think of like a gimmicky okay, like a gimmicky business would be like specialized Muay Thai equipment. It's a gimmicky business. It's like you kind of have like some status associated with your product. It's kind of just branding. I think branding based businesses where you're simply white labeling products are gimmicky. I guess the gimmick there is branding. And the value of this is watching me think this through. The gimmick there is branding. And the value of this to me is I get to think this through. The value of branding, like branding itself is gimmicky. Um, Though I guess there is value. I guess any business that doesn't aspire to ever increasing monopoly is gimmicky. Because even Ford, like Ford, if he just had the engine, and he was just like, yeah, I'm Ford with my Ford engines, and I got my cars, and I just sell my cars, and I'm going to sell everyone a car. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep selling them cars. And like, it's kind of gimmicky. It's like your gimmick is like the car. It's like, yeah, I'm the car guy. Where, yeah, I think that's really the way of understanding it. People gimmickize themselves for marketing purposes. This is brilliant. This is why I make these videos, because I get to think these things through and have new thoughts. So, Ford. Yeah, so basically you end up gimmicking yourself because you'd be like, oh, I'm the marketing person. Like, I'm the marketer. And then you start thinking about like what is marketing? Marketing is just being aware of how people consume things. But if you're really aware of how people consume things, you should like take the next step. There's always a next step, and I think gimmickiness is from not taking that next step. Like I think like the entertainment companies are becoming gimmicky where they're putting all the movies and stuff behind a paywall and they're not taking the next step. Like the next step is culture, I guess, from movies. Is like you give people some way to participate in the movies. Like Disney did that through Disney World, but then Disney stopped doing that. And I don't know. I mean, Disney, I haven't really seen much innovation from Disney recently. I think that that's kind of where gimmicks come in, is then you become a gimmick. Like, this is sort of like, I'm fighting. I think about gimmicks a lot. Like, people will be like, oh, I'm like the Asoto Gari guy, or I'm like the Ippon Seoi Nagi guy, or I'm like the armbar guy, or something. And it's like, it's a gimmick at the end of the day. Like, there's just the principles that lead to martial arts success and fighting success. And like even like technique, like in jujitsu, becomes like a gimmick. It's like, oh, technique. It's like technique's only a third of it. It's mindset, technique, and then like physical condition. And it becomes this gimmick where it's like you're basically like always trying to refer back to technique when it's not actually the source of everything. Like I see this in jujitsu commentary a lot, where jujitsu's become very gimmicky in terms of technique. Like they'll be like talking about like the technical differences between jujitsu fighters when they're really like it's not the deciding factor at all. They're like, oh, and he's trying. Like I'm like they're both just doing some terrible wrestling right now. Like stop. They're both like we're like they're both terrible athletes who are trying to pull each other into each other's guards so they can go for some weird leg lock thing. It's like I like wrestling a lot because wrestling has the greater understanding that like anyone can beat anyone. But jujitsu, like they're just like, oh, I don't know. It's like it's just whoever like I like George St. Pierre. Like he's just like very straightforward with gimmicks. He's like there is no such thing as an undefeatable fighter. Like it's just who's better on that day. The whole game is just being better on that day. And I think that there's so much truth to that. So go back to more gimmicks in business. Like basically I'd say gimmick you gimmickize yourself anytime that you try to rest on your laurels and like what you've already accomplished. Like there's really only constant innovation and the absence of constant innovation. And constant innovation consists of finding problems and competent people to solve those problems. That's really all that there is. Business is just life accelerated. It's just a micro environment where we say, okay, we're just going to focus on this one specific problem and solve this problem to a very, very proficient degree. And then there are other problems that come up in that. And then you do an analysis of what is actually the most effective thing to work on. And then you decide what you're going to work on after that problem. And it's like, so like I think Ford was like, okay, we got to build an engine. And then he's like, okay, now we have to eliminate waste in terms of the engine building process. Okay, now, and they just next step, next step, next step, next step. And there's always a next step. And it's like, you have to set yourself up to take that next step. Like, let's say I'm just like, oh, I just make supplements. I'm the supplement guy. It's like, okay, well, what else do people who take supplements take? Food, medications. So the next steps of my business, oh, okay, here's where I get into it a lot. Okay, this is perfect. It's taking me a little while to get into this. So the next steps of my business are food, other supplements, other specialized supplements, information, I guess, which I'm releasing lots of information, pharmaceuticals, like I'll probably get into like over-the-counter pharmaceuticals next, like making ibuprofen without additives in it, allergy medications without additives in it, because I can't take any of that stuff, like Benadryl without additives in it. I can't take any of that stuff without getting it because it has magnesium stearate in it. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep solving my own problems. And that's really what I'm going to continue doing. So I think that's actually my best metric for success is my ability to solve my own problems and make those solutions available to other people. Because I think that like trying to solve other people's problems is sort of like evil. Like it's not really evil, but it's like I don't really understand their problem and I don't really understand what solution is going to make sense to them unless I'm just making available at mass the solutions for myself. Because like otherwise you get all these like strange ideas. Like you'll be like I don't know. I was like, should I make like a super specialized sleep supplement because that seems to be what people want? Or like, should I, like, it's like trying to make what you think people are going to want. But like, really, you're the person you understand the most. So you know what you want if you're connected with your own soul and your own self. And then you can, like, if you're an educated consumer, like, it'll work. Like, I think that's what works. And it's sort of non-gimmicky because, and I think like that's really an example of gimmicks. Like in the supplement industry, people are like, oh, I'm going to make like the most specialized sleep supplement. And it's just like, I could just tell it's just a giant marketing thing. I'm looking at this and I'm like, all these ingredients don't even make sense together. People are going to educate themselves in biochemistry at some point, and then you're going to look like a fool. I mean, I think the timeline on that is really long. Like, I think that honestly, like educating people on this stuff is very difficult. I don't even think that it's actually guaranteed. I think that honestly, there's a high probability that all information could be lost every generation. I think that each generation needs to be quite motivated in order to not have essentially their dark ages come back. People will be like, "Oh, this is forgotten knowledge," and I'll be like, "How did that knowledge get forgotten?" Everybody being a little kid, and be like, "How did people forget about like how to do all this stuff?" And it's like, I understand now. They're busy and they're drinking and they forgot. They just didn't really. They were like, "Oh, someone else knows how to do it," until like the last guy who knew how to do it died, and didn't. No one else really figured it out. Maybe some guy like kind of half knew it, but he can't really teach anyone, and it's just the information dies out. So I think that betting on human stupidity is generally a good idea, and I'm kind of doing the opposite of that. I'm betting on human intelligence with this company. Yeah, I am betting on human intelligence, and I hope that doesn't come back to bite me. But I have to believe in human intelligence though, because we created these phones and all this stuff. So at least there's some people somewhere who are intelligent and competent who will buy my stuff. So that's probably pretty good. But even so though, like speed is a real gimmick. Like I've noticed people talking like, "Oh, I know this guy's successful because he works fast," and it's like, is that really? Is that really all? Because I've noticed that speed tends to work best in fights when people don't know what they're doing. But it's like if I like people like hand speed is everything. It's like no, it's not. It's footwork because it doesn't matter where your hands are if your feet are in the wrong place. And I think that that's sort of what we're seeing in business is that like, everyone's focusing on like how quickly you can respond to emails because people have run out of ideas because they've been selected for their ability to think in a conformist manner and respond to emails quickly, so they don't have any time to think new ideas. And now we just have all the people who consider themselves the best at business who are just like speed, 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 work all the time, work, 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 work. And it's like really that's just how they succeeded, but it's not even a good way to be successful. And now they're just a bunch of people competing with themselves with who can like do things the fastest. And this is where that's its own gimmick, but this is where gimmicks fail because these people are just constantly iterating without thought. So you have to move faster than them. So one way I'm moving faster is I'm educating people via YouTube. Another way I'm moving faster is I've realized I can share all of my business secrets online because I have this speed thing going. Like I'm moving fast enough that by the time, like if someone were to try to copy me, by the time they succeeded, I'm already on to the next thing. And then I'm on to the next thing and I'm on to the next thing. And then really they're just marketing for the next thing that I'm already there. And that's where, and then my ability to continuously do that is my ability to continue to hire the best and most competent people to solve all the problems preventing me from doing that. Until you just own everything. But I mean, I can't really own everything because I'm limited by human lifetime. Except that I'm trying to live longer than the normal human lifespan. But we'll see how that goes. I mean, I think that it seems to me that it would be possible to live forever. But I mean, in practice, probably not. I think we're very much limited by our own pessimism in a very real sense. But I think that like living to 160 is possible. But I don't even know if immortality would be desirable at this stage of humanity. I mean, like absolute immortality. I think that maybe like extended lifespan would be desirable, but absolute immortality, gimmicky businesses. I think like oh, the what's his face Brian Johnson's business seems kind of gimmicky because he's like live forever, buy my supplements, and it's like they all still have magnesium stearate in them. So, or like Liver King when he like basically had the marketing gimmick and then he was like trying to dominate based on that. I think that, I mean, gimmicks are cool. Like, I think gimmicks are kind of cool, but I think that relying on gimmicks is like it doesn't work. Like, you have to ultimately build something that can continuously grow. Otherwise, what is there for people to buy into? And that's why I'm trying not to grow my YouTube channel with gimmicks either. Like, it's like, I guess like a gimmick I've tried in the past is like sleep coaching gimmick. Like, I'm going to give all this insomnia advice. And it's like, it's a gimmick though, because at the end of the day, like, it's like I'm trying to be the insomnia guy instead of just being Devin. But if I just be Devin, then I'll get all the things that are the result of being Devin. And then I get to explore being Devin. I don't have to rely on no one else taking over this area that I've decided is mine, which it isn't. So that's where I think like getting rid of gimmicks on YouTube is useful. Like I got a comment today that made me really happy. Someone was like, you make me feel like there's still soul on YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, because there's no gimmick. I'm like, I don't want to do the gimmicks because I don't think they work. I think people are smart enough to realize that. I think advertising itself becomes a gimmick because it's like, oh, I was just able to get my product in front of you faster. But it's like, I want repeat customers though. Like, I don't want people, like, I just want to win so hard that everyone just, like, for all time is just like, oh my God. And it's more of a me thing. Like, I'm like, okay, how do I do that? So from my perspective, that's what happened. And the way I do that is not by succeeding with gimmicks. It's by just creating better products. Like, I want to just create better products, make these products available at less expensive, continue to develop more products that solve people's needs. But like, oh, Ford noticed with health that one of the major issues with people was health. So, I mean, I ultimately think that the main way that this business is going to succeed is through the implementation of my health practices. Like, I think that is really, but I think that at an employee level, like I get my employees to do this stuff, and then my employees don't suffer from poor health, which allows them to work harder. And then I just have a bunch of incredibly hot, sexy employees, and everyone's like, how did you get so attractive and have so much money and free time? They'd be like, working for Devin Young. And they're like, what? Like, yeah, he just makes sure that I take care of myself while I'm making all these health products. And then that gets me more competent people to work for me who can solve marketing problems and stuff. And then also, because I think the majority of people won't be able to actually, like, talking like majority on a global scale, like, how many, like, there's a reason Africa hasn't developed yet. They're just like, they built, like China went in and built all these factories in Africa and they just blew them all up. They just ransacked all of it. Like, there's a cultural difference in different parts of the world that prevent them from developing. Like, there's a reason development is located in one area. And then it's like, well, that's racist. No, it isn't. There's lots of different races in the United States. It's all the people from all the races who realized that there wasn't going to be any development elsewhere, so they all came here. There's plenty of white people in Europe who won't be doing any innovation. That's all I'll say there. So ultimately, I'm not really banking on everyone being hyper competitive and innovative and like jumping on the greatest idea and doing all the research to realize that. But I am banking on a massive bandwagon effect when the people who work for me succeed. And I am also banking on there being enough people who actually understand that this stuff is poison to independently search it and then buy it themselves. So, and then I'm banking on from there that I'll be able to continue to dominate the supplement industry and then use the profits and proceeds from that to identify similar problems in other industries. I mean, basically the point I'm going to get to is proprietary syntheses that are patented by me that have their own independent tests done on the compound. So you're not just taking magnesium glycinate, you're taking my personal synthesis of magnesium glycinate that is higher quality than any other magnesium glycinate salt out there that has been thoroughly tested, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these things become more like prescription drugs. Going into the over-the-counter medication space and taking over there, probably going into all prescription medications too, and making higher quality prescription medications. And then at that point, basically, I want to continue trying to drive. I don't know. I mean, human stupidity is really great. So there could be another company that just comes in and. But this is where I think speed is king. Like if I'm just moving fast enough, they won't be able to stop me because these other companies are paying market rate for employees. So they're going to have inferior employees to me. And I'm also banking on the fact that the greatest future employees are going to be people with longer term attention spans. So they're going to be people who are, and just like the greatest future customers, most consistent customers. Like I'm thinking like the most consistent customers are going to be more intelligent in buying this stuff because they believe in its efficacy. But it's like, okay, well, what would prevent them from going on and starting their own companies? Well, I mean, first of all, it's a huge pain in the butt. But second of all, the fact that I've already gone and done it, and I feel like they'll just realize that they can just come work for me because I probably would have gone to work for someone else if there had been a better company. I mean, it even was. I was hitting up like Doc Testosterone and stuff. I've been like talking to YouTube entrepreneurs forever, and none of them had a business model that I could join because I think none of them really understood business to the degree that I do because I think none of them spent like 7 years just feeling incredibly insecure about money, thinking about business and going, holy cow, I need to only eat meat to survive. This is expensive. How am I going to like take care of myself? And then like, holy cow, people are being financially enslaved and fiat currency. So I think I'm in that unique position. I think people are very unique. Like, I don't think there is another Devin Young out there who's had all of these thoughts in this particular way. And I think I can kind of lead the way for other people by sharing all these thoughts. And that even though I'm telling everyone everything I know how to do, I think I'm still going to be light years ahead of people. I think it's the same with jiu-jitsu. Like I'm going to put out over the course of the next few years everything I understand about jiu-jitsu. But I don't think people are even going to implement it until like a generation or two in the future. So I'll still have plenty of time to dominate everyone in competition. Because at the end of the day, like actually doing things is much harder than thinking about doing them. And I think this is the essence of gimmick. The essence of gimmick is like you get to a certain point and you stop. And you're like, oh, okay, this is the thing that I'll do. And I'll just continue to do it. And then that will enable me to continue to do the thing. And it's like, but the real thing is innovation. That's the real thing is innovation. And innovation comes from people. Smart, motivated people. So the real thing is getting smart, motivated people. Like my best business decision ever was enabling myself to spend a lot of time working on creating real value and solving problems. That was the greatest thing I ever did. Because everything else has just come from that. Now I have an opportunity that's big enough for me and my brother to both work on it. And he's really freaking smart too. And then we're going to create an opportunity that's big enough for us and some other very, very intelligent person to work on it. And we're just going to keep on recruiting more and more intelligent people until we're just this unbeatable mass of intelligent people. I think that's like really the only business insight anyone's ever had. Like what else is there beyond doing that? Fundamentally, I think I'm going to end this video at exactly 3333 because that's just kind of funny. But yeah, look, what else is there? Create value and train other people to create even more value.